captain, my captain, and she does it again. Great read by Marino. Garland North with a high heat. She strikes. Got she scores! Spectacular! Score! Noel Miller behind the back.
Their passion for this wonderful sport of lacrosse, and they get to do it with their best friends. I mean, what's better than that?
Welcome, everyone, to the Week 2 draft of Athletes Unlimited Pro Lacrosse. I'm Maria Tribal-Peace alongside Athletes Unlimited veteran and sideline reporter Kylie Ohlmiller. Kylie, an exciting Week 1. What can we expect from Week 2?
Yeah, it really was an exciting Week 1. I think you see a mix of that here in this leaderboard. We have Marie McCool, who is having her first time as a captain here in 4 years, which is really exciting. But we saw a lot of talent from the rookies and the newcomers in the league. There's 21 of them in the league, and we saw them really hit the stage really, really hard this past weekend.
We're going to talk about a lot of those rookies and newcomers, but first, let's meet our captains. As you said, Kylie, Marie McCool topping the leaderboard with 443 points. She's going to be the captain of the gold team. Britt Reed right behind her with 398 leaderboard points and 23 saves. She's the captain of Team Orange. Taylor Marino, captain again, but leading the blue squad this week. This is her 9th consecutive week as a captain. And finally, Sam Apuzzo rounding out the top 4. She's the purple team captain, and she is going to pick first for us. So Sam, whenever you're ready, we'd like to hear your first pick.
Attacker, Izzy Skane.
So that is the second week in a row where Izzy Skane is the first pick of our draft, Kylie. Again, another rookie making an impact.
Definitely making an impact. And I know that is a pick that, maybe we weren't expecting from Sam. We've always seen her kind of go for Dempsey Arsenal, her number 1 in the, in the drafts in years past. So it's an exciting one for sure.
For sure. We'll see if she grabs Dempsey later, but now Taylor has her pick.
Midfielder, Allie Kennedy.
Taylor picking Allie again this week. That's somebody that you wanted to keep your eye on a ton this season, Kylie, and she really showed out in Week 1.
She really did, and she's all over the field. She's one of those players that can quickly climb the leaderboard, which we saw here in Week 1, just by draw controls, cause turnovers, shots, and she just really is sturdy everywhere because she doesn't make mistakes. So those turnovers points, those negative turnover points, really aren't a thing for her.
Yeah, and she set a new career high this week with 204 leaderboard points in Team Marino's win against Team Glynn. So, as you said, she just does a little bit of everything and just looking really good this season. That's a really good pick for Taylor Marino.
And something to note about the two of them working together, Taylor is known for her quick outlets after she makes a save, she likes to get the ball quickly out of her stick. And Allie is known for really pushing transition and really getting out of the defensive side really quickly and looking for those quick outlet passes to push the other side fast.
That's awesome. And it just creates that chemistry, which is something that we talked about with a lot of the captains I know last week. That's the biggest thing when they're looking about who they're going to pick. It's what's that chemistry going to be like? Who is going to complement what you do well? And so, Kylie, I'll ask you, as somebody who's been a captain before, when you think about chemistry, what is one aspect of chemistry that you think complemented yourself well?
Yeah, I think it's all about chemistry in this league, like you said, and just understanding that you might actually work well with someone that you've never played with before. You just have never had the opportunity to do it. And that's what's so beautiful about AU Pro Lacrosse is, I might have never gotten to play with Sam Apuzzo, for example, which is not true. I have gotten to play with Sam Apuzzo. I'm very, very lucky. But for example, and then, you get drafted to the same team. You get to play in the same offense for 3 games throughout the week, understand what the inner workings of some of the best players are and how their mind operates around the game. And it really just forces you to become a better player and operate around their style as well.
And on that note, Britt Reed has a pick for us.
Ali Mastriani.
Ooh, Ali Mastriani, another player who this past week did a little bit of everything. 14 draw controls, 4 goals, 3 ground balls. Kylie, you were there. You were on the field. What did Ali do well?
Yeah, you said it. A little bit of everything. We're seeing that out of the Ali double pick right here from Taylor to Britt. And both of them do both of those things so well. They're a menace in the middle of the field in terms of grabbing draw controls, causing turnovers on the defensive end. And then they're a matchup nightmare on the offensive side. So Ali Mastriani, she's dodging hard. She's getting to the cage. She had some really great looks in terms of some of her shot opportunities that she had this past weekend. And I think, Britt Reed talked to me prior to today's draft just about how she likes to draft somebody on the offensive side of the ball first, a leader and a veteran like Ali Mastriani, to help kind of understand and implement some of the things they want to see on the offensive end, while Britt gets to stay on the defensive end in her goal.
I think that's one thing that we heard from a lot of captains is drafting somebody on the opposite end of the field. I know Abby Bosco talked about it last week as a captain as well. And so for you, what do you think was one thing that, and we could talk about this after this pick, but Marie McCool is going to tell us what her first pick of this week's draft is.
Midfielder Dempsey Arsenal.
Dempsey Arsenal. So Sam will not have her on her team this week. Kylie, what do you like about this pick?
I think I like that pick because of that exact point you just made right there. It's going to be a team that we're going to see for Team Apuzzo that doesn't have Dempsey Arsenal in the midfield.
Marie's got another pick for us.
Attacker Sydney Black.
So we're talking about the rookies. Sydney Black had a good showing in her first week. Kylie, what did you think really stood out about the way that she played?
Yeah, she's very explosive, and that is something that people have said about her entire career at Loyola, and I got to see it on display in person this past week. She's also not just a dodger. We saw her incredible swim move, highlight reel finish earlier this week, but she's also one of those players that can facilitate offense. So she plays well behind the cage. She plays well on the wing, but her being able to kind of shake and move her own defender allows her to get a step on them and then create slides for everybody else on the defensive side. Making sure that the defense is worrying about her and where she's going to go opens up some things for the rest of the offense.
Absolutely. And, again, a rookie. So while we have some time, let's chat a little bit about the rookies. Sydney Black is one of them. Izzy Skane taken first overall again this week. What do you think in all of these rookies' first outing overall? What do you think? What do you think they were scared? Do you think they stepped up to the moment? How did they respond?
Yeah, they definitely stepped up to the moment, and it was really impressive. It's been a theme of conversation throughout the league so far, is just that, yes, there are a lot of newcomers, there are a lot of rookies, but those rookies have incredible talent. They bring a lot of energy to the field, and it seemed as if there was absolutely no fear. And they got a lot of that confidence from the veterans around them, they were telling me.
Well, veteran Britt Reed is going to let us know her pick.
Attacker Isabel Peterson.
Ooh, another first year. Kylie, thoughts on Isabella Peterson?
Yeah, another first-year player, and she was one of those ones that really stood out. She immediately put her foot on the gas pedal when she stepped on the field this past weekend. She played for Team Marino, and she was really standing out. She was able to grab draw controls and be an impact in that way, but at the same time, she was kind of one of those players that maybe a defensive team on the other side didn't necessarily think they had to put their best defender on, and then maybe had to switch around a couple of things as the games went on when they realized how much of a threat she really is.
No, absolutely. And, I've asked Kylie who some of her favorite rookies were that stood out. So I'll ask everybody who's watching in the chat right now, who were some of those first-year players that you liked so far? Who was exciting to watch? I know, Kylie, you mentioned that highlight reel from Sydney Black. I know that Athletes Unlimited posted that on all of their social channels. So let's hear it from the chat. And right now we're going to hear from Taylor Marino with her pick.
Attacker Charlotte North.
Charlotte North leading the league in goals last week. That's exactly what she does. Kylie, anything new from Charlotte this year, or is she just being her usual self and very aggressive and explosive?
Charlotte being Charlotte, and I think we're going to expect to see a little bit more of that momentum this week.
Absolutely. Sam's ready with her pick.
Midfielder Katie O'Donnell.
Katie O'Donnell had a fantastic first week. She earned MVP 1 for the first time in her Athletes Unlimited career. She also had 7 goals. Kylie, what made her so exciting to watch?
Yeah, she was playing like a leader this past weekend. And anytime I walked past, I like to kind of stick my head into the huddles during timeouts and in between quarters. I was popping into the locker room at halftime to try to see who was, being those leaders. And every time for Team Glenn this past weekend, that was KO. That's what the players call her, Coach Katie O'Donnell, at the head coach at Drexel. And you could see she was bringing that fire, and not only just the X's and O's where she was drawing up plays for, player up situations, but she was also being that motivating force for some of the rookies that were out there and maybe playing a little bit timid or not understanding that they could go to their full potential, kind of giving them the green light. I loved overhearing that from Katie O'Donnell. So I think she's doing a fantastic job at not only playing, but leading so far.
She was certainly someone that when you, like you said, listening into a huddle, you just learned even more about the sport or saw it from a completely different perspective when you just took time to hear what she had to say. So not only leading, as you said, but doing it offensively as well, just a little bit of everything from Katie O'Donnell. And we're looking in the chat right now and seeing some of everybody's favorite rookies. I see Sydney Scales is on there, Maggie Hall, lots of different people putting their input in. So I want to hear everybody else's favorite rookies. Kylie, besides the ones that we mentioned, who are some other ones that you were like, oh, wow, they're going to have an impact in Athletes Unlimited this year?
Yeah, I really liked watching Maggie Hall play. I mean, I'm biased because I'm a lefty attacker, but I really liked watching her dance in there.
Sam's ready with her pick.
Midfielder, Cassidy Weeks.
Ooh, Cassidy Weeks. Kylie, let's hear what you've got on this one.
I like this draft. I don't know. I spoke with half the captains here today, and this is not going as planned as they were hoping it was going to go. So, I'm loving the switch up here from what they might have expected. And I'm loving that Cassidy Weeks has been grabbed this high on the draft this week. And, Sam Apuzzo has coached Cassidy Weeks, and she knows that she's a gritty player in the midfield.
Taylor Marino with their next pick.
Midfielder, Ellie Massera.
Ellie Massera, that was another one that a lot of our viewers are saying was their favorite first year and rookie. So Kylie, what did you like from her in week one?
I like that, Taylor Marino being in the captain spot, she's taken both Allie Kennedy and Ellie Massera. So again, I'm speaking on a lot of bias right now, but those are my Seawolves right there. She just Kaylin Hart on the left side of the attack to make the trio happen there for Team Marino. But yeah, Ellie Massera was all over the field. She did that in college for Stony Brook. And she just really is a presence on the offensive end. She's got so much speed. She doesn't have size necessarily, but the cool thing about lacrosse is that you don't need size. You could have it, and that could be your superpower, but you could also have speed like Ellie Massera, and that could be your superpower. The cool thing about the sport of lacrosse is that there are so many different unique ways of being great at the game. And I think Ellie does a really nice job at utilizing hers, which is her speed.
I love that. Just everybody has a different gift, right? And a different talent. And it's how you make the most of that talent. And Ellie clearly doing that. And, these teams are starting to shape up slowly but surely. As you said, it might not be what some of these captains had planned heading into today, but I'll ask again in the chat, based on these teams so far, who is everyone rooting for? Who do you think will be your favorite team or some of your favorite players on these teams already?
Yeah, something exciting to note about this one. There's only been 10 picks total so far, and half of those, 50%, 5 picks of the 10 are rookies. And I think that just goes to show how exciting, the talent in this league is this year.
Absolutely. Britt Reed has her next pick.
Midfielder, Amy Monroe.
All right, Kylie, thoughts on this one?
I like this one. This is a player that stood out to me this past week because of her ability to, really cause turnovers on defense and at the same time just kind of push transition. Amy Moreau is one of those players that I like that she's been picked so high this week because it goes to show that she's one of those vibe players. I know a lot of captains always say it, but they're always looking for good vibes. And I think Amy Moreau just brings that intensity and she brings that level of fun to the game.
I love the idea of vibes because I think that's something that people don't understand is so important, not only in the sport of lacrosse, but just across sports and having chemistry on a team in general. So you need that kind of, I think somebody said last week, like a vibes leader. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's something that every team needs. And so really good pick right there. And as I look in the chat, it looks like a lot of people are rooting for Team Apuzzo so far. Somebody's individually rooting for Izzy Skane. So lots of fans in the chat. We love it. We want to make sure everybody tunes in on Thursday. That's when all the games start. And Kylie, you were there on the sidelines in the thick of it, the heat of it, all of it. What would you say about the atmosphere now, seeing it from a different angle? You know, you're used to being in the game. Now you get to see it from the sidelines and you can look up into the stands and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, I think Marie is going to be ready with her picks. So I'm going to let her pick hers, and then I'm going to answer that because I have a fun one for you.
Perfect. Marie, whenever you're ready.
Attacker, Kenzie Kent.
Ooh, so lots of rookies. Now the vet, Kenzie Kent. So Kylie, you can talk about Kenzie Kent and then answer the question. You pick what you want to do.
Yeah, Kenzie's a fantastic player, and I think that's a big one for Marie. She's not only grabbing an offensive player in a low attacker, but she's also grabbing a lefty, which I think is another strategy that a lot of these captains look to grab when they're building not only their team, but an offense. There's only so many left-handed players and there's only so many right-handed players when it comes to making up an offense. And, you know, in lacrosse, you want to make sure that you're balancing that field as best you possibly can. So to bring in a veteran in Kenzie Kent to fill out that left side is huge.
Awesome. And had a lot of 2-point goals last season. We'll see if she can have any more of those this season. But we'll go back to the atmosphere question while we wait for our next pick. What was it like being on the sidelines?
Yeah, you know what? I really wish I was out there, but this is the second best thing, I have to say. And just being able to, I was joking with some of my, teammates and peers, but I was able to go back and forth from huddle to huddle. I almost felt like I was cheating, but it was fantastic to watch as a fan.
I love it. Marie's ready with her pick.
Defender, Abby Bosco.
You know, Kylie, I was just looking over in the chat and somebody said they're going to root for whatever team has Abby Bosco on it. So it looks like they are now going to be Team McCool fans. But Abby, a captain last week, what does she bring to Team McCool this week?
I think she brings that defensive leadership. So 2 big picks for Marie here, I think, because, she's a midfielder and she's the only midfielder in this draft right now. So she herself covers a lot of those big spots on the field. She can take the draw and she's fantastic at it. She can push transition and she's fantastic at it. She can play defense and she can play offense. So she covers a lot of those positional places that you need her to be. But to have someone like Kenzie Kent running the offense, and then you have someone like Abby Bosco now being able to be the leader of the defense, who just ran the team last week as a captain herself. I think those are 2 really smart picks for Marie McCool.
No, absolutely. And we've seen so much leadership from Abby Bosco as well, not only this season, but last season. And that was a big reason she was a top 4 finisher in the Defender of the Year last year in Athletes Unlimited. And so I'm looking in the chat right now. One thing that we asked everyone is where they're all watching the draft from. And so we have people tuning in from all over, Kylie. Connecticut, New York, California. Somebody has Iceland that they're watching our Athletes Unlimited draft from. So we love that. How important do you think it is that so many people are tuning in from all these different places? And why should they continue to tune in not only to the drafts, but to the games this weekend?
Yeah, these are some of the best players in the world, and the game is only growing bigger and bigger. I'll definitely touch more on that after we hear from Britt Reed.
Yep.
Attacker, Erin Kuykendall.
Britt is struggling with the pronunciation today. You can see them kind of giggling over there, but that's a great pick for Britt Reed. She, again, she's got 2 rookies on her offense right now alongside Ali Mastriani as a veteran. So to have Erin Kuykendall and Isabella Peterson working together, I'm excited to see those 2.
Taylor's ready with her pick.
Attacker, Maggie Hall.
Maggie Hall, that was a rookie that everybody was excited about in our chat. Kylie, you were excited about her as well. So how does she complement Team Marino?
She's staying in blue this week. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind as I watch these players kind of switch teams and switch jersey colors. But I think, again, another strong left-handed attacker. And that's a big pick for Team Marino. After, Kenzie Kent comes off the board, you have a player like Maggie Hall who proved that she can really, take some contact, get through some physicality, and still be able to finish the ball in a bunch of different ways. So I like that pick for Team Marino.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to that question about just growing the game to California, Illinois, and Iceland. Why is that so important?
Yeah, I mean, lacrosse is finally back in the Olympics and back in the Olympics for the first time ever for women in 2028 in LA. So it's a global sport. We want as many players to pick up the stick as possible, as many people to be watching this beautiful game as possible. So shout out to you in Iceland and shout out to you all over the world, because we're grateful for the support of you guys watching this, because we know that if you can watch us at the highest level here, that hopefully we can continue to grow at some of the youth levels and beyond all over the world.
Yeah, we're super, super excited about everybody tuning in right now. And, Kylie, lacrosse has not only brought a lot of people to watch this draft and watch the games, but it's also helped you travel to all of these different places as well. So what are some of the coolest places that you've played this sport, and how grateful are you for those opportunities to take you around the world?
Yeah, I mean, lacrosse has taken me to all of the amazing places I've been able to go. I'm so grateful to the game. It's given me, more opportunities than I could ever imagine. And I'm sure a lot of these guys would say the same.
Sam's ready with her pick.
Attacker, Sam Geiersbach.
Sammy Geiersbach. So Sam and Sam are on the same team. Dempsey and Sam aren't on the same team. Kylie, how does Sam Geiersbach help Sam Mapuzzo?
Yeah, again, I know I keep going back to it. And again, I am a lefty attacker, but that's a lefty attacker off the board. So you can see, we saw the trends last week's draft of how these captains kind of play off of each other's picks. And as the lefty attackers are starting to come off the board, they're realizing, hey, that might not have been what I wanted to go for next in terms of a position to fill, but I have to before somebody else does. So I think that's what we're seeing here in the last 2 rounds with that. And I think Sam Geiersbach, she had a great third day here this past weekend, and she had a fantastic year last year. She's getting some of those top defender matchups on the other side. So to see Sam and Sam on those same sides, they're going to have to split that, number 1 defender on the other side, deciding who's going to be that matchup. And I think that's dangerous.
You talk about how the game plan kind of shifts a little bit as you're a captain, right? Because you may go into it thinking this is how I want to select, and then somebody completely messes it up and takes the people that you want. For people who are just tuning into Athletes Unlimited, and in particular the draft for the first time, can you kind of explain all of the different people that you can utilize while you're a captain to make and help you make some more of those picks, especially when things go sideways?
Yeah, and as you guys can see, not only are captains on the screen here, but they have their facilitators with them. Facilitators act as basically kind of a second captain, if you will, that doesn't get to play. So it's a person that can be on the sideline helping you call timeouts. It's a person that can be in the huddles helping you come up with game plans, because when you think about it, all 4 of these captains are likely going to play every single minute of every single game throughout this upcoming week. And sometimes it's difficult to be locked in and at the same time also basically coaching the game as well. So it's an awesome help to be able to have your facilitators be able to step into those roles sometimes when you need the help. And obviously it's great for them to hear another opinion in the draft too.
Awesome. Sam's ready with her pick.
Midfielder, Grace Griffin.
Grace Griffin. So we were talking about people from all over the world tuning into the draft. Grace Griffin, one of the Canadians in Athletes Unlimited. What did you like from her performance in week 1?
Grace Griffin, she's a lefty midfielder, and I liked her performance because it was just solid. She was everywhere, and she was picking up gritty ground balls. She was doing a lot of the offensive things that you don't necessarily see on the stat sheet, like goals and assists, but she's the one that's making the correct cut to open up the rest of the players. She's the one that's, driving to the cage to draw a slide and then dump it to the right spot. So I really like that pick for Sam Mapuzzo. I think they're going to work well together on that offensive end. And I think something about Grace Griffin as well is that she's one of those defenders on the midfield side that you feel like you'd think would be a matchup, but she's not. She's so locked down. And it's really fun to watch her play defense.
Awesome. We have a little bit of time before, Taylor's ready with her pick.
Midfielder, Cassidy Spillis.
Cassidy Spillis. Thoughts, Kylie? Let's hear it.
Yeah, Cassidy Spillis went really high in the draft last week, and rightfully so. She had a fantastic career at Rutgers. She's one of those players that a lot of the girls have explained is really, really like intense in the best way on the field. She just wants to win. She wants to do everything that she possibly can to help her team. And I think she's just really versatile as a midfielder. She's able to dodge, but she's also finding herself in all the right spots and all the right times when it comes to cutting.
Awesome. We talked a lot about all the different picks in the draft, but one thing I kind of want to go back to, Kylie, is our captain, Marie McCool, because as you mentioned right when we began today, this is her first time being captain of the gold team. And so what do you think kind of turned on for her in this first week of season 4? She's been in the league for a little bit. She just kind of went off. So what were some things that stood out to you that made it different maybe than in years past?
Yeah, I think for to stand out differently from years past, it's difficult because not every year is the same. And as we've been talking about, there's a lot of new talent this year, so you got to stand out in different ways.
She certainly did. Britt Reed has her next pick.
Defense, Lizzie Colson.
Lizzie Colson, somebody who's very familiar with being a captain herself. Kylie, you played with Lizzie, and I mean, you've played with a lot of these players, but when you've had the opportunity to play with her, what makes her so good at what she does?
Yeah, Lizzie is a defender that she's so sound with her footwork. And she's really in the right place at the right time. She's fantastic at communicating. And she also can handle the ball so well. So she's a person that you can put not only on the defensive end and completely trust her. She's obviously a Team USA defender in her own right, but you also can trust her to run the ball up the field, score a goal if she needs to, or just kind of create that transition opportunity for the offense.
Awesome. We've been talking a lot about the captains, the people in the draft, but we're also taking a look at the chat. And Kylie, it says that the other day, Saturday in particular, someone named Christopher was at the game and their 12-year-old got to meet you. And we're going to talk about that after Marie McCool gives us her pick.
Attacker, Andy Aldave.
Ooh, Andy Aldave. Let's hear it, Kylie.
Yes, I like this pick for Marie. She's ready with her second one with that snake draft, but Andy and Marie, they play together a lot, and we'll get into that.
Midfielder, Hannah Dorney.
Ooh, so Hannah Dorney and Andy Aldave back-to-back. Kylie, break it down for us.
Yes, and shout out Christopher and your 12-year-old. It was awesome to meet you on Saturday, and thanks for being there in the stands. The stands have been absolutely electric so far. Every time I'm down there on the sideline, I turn around, I'm trying to see what's going on in the stands. So it was awesome to meet you, and thanks for watching the draft as well.
Britt Reed, whenever you're ready.
Defense, Courtney Taylor.
Ooh, Courtney Taylor, a solid defender. Kylie, I feel like we're behind a little bit. We have to talk Andy Aldave, Dorney, all of them. So you pick who you want to go with. We'll have plenty of time as the draft continues.
Yeah, Andy Aldave and Marie McCool, they, got to be together at UNC a little bit. So they have a really great connection. And Andy is one of those players that can kind of do anything that you need her to do on the offensive end. And she's going to finish some really tough finishes. So she's one of those veterans in the league right now. She was a veteran for Team Marino this past weekend. And she's got a great voice when it comes to being on the offensive end. So that'll bring some fire to Team McCool. And then Hannah Dorney, she is solid in the midfield. She can dodge. She can also play a lot of great defense. So I like that pick. And I know Marie is going for players that have played together before. And Andy and Hannah have played together at Notre Dame.
There you go. Taylor, whenever you're ready.
Defender, Sydney Scales.
Sydney Scales was another one in our chat that people are very excited about, and she had a great showing in her Athletes Unlimited debut. Kylie, what stood out about her?
Yeah, these two back-to-back defensive picks for Team Reed. You have Courtney Taylor and then Sydney Scales for Team Marino. Both of them stood out tremendously this past weekend and kind of have throughout their defensive debut, not only professionally, but in their college days as well. Both of them are just like one of those defenders, and again, speaking as an attacker, you don't want to get matched up with. Sydney Scales had the matchup against Izzy Skane. That's a matchup we had seen all throughout their college days as well, between BC and Northwestern. Those were some games we saw a lot, and that was just a fun matchup. And then Courtney Taylor is just one of those players that is going to really beat you to all of the ground balls, all of the really important ground balls as well. And she's just a hustler. So both great defensive picks and really, really solid.
You mentioned the matchups in college. Does it change when you get to the pros? And I'll have you answer that after Sam makes her pick.
Defender, Emily Knowles.
Ooh, Emily Knowles, another first year that people were excited about.
Yes. And again, another defensive-minded player. She found herself pretty high on the leaderboard as this weekend kind of continued to play out. And she's one of those, she reminds me of Emma Trenchard, who played for Team USA with me and also in AU. Just really quick recovery in her feet.
Sam, whenever you're ready.
Defender, Katie Detweiler.
We're staying on the trend of defenders. So we saw a lot of those midfielders and offensive players go at the beginning. Now the defenders are coming into play as you talk strategy a little bit. What do you like about Detweiler?
Detweiler is one of those players, and you could say this about Courtney Taylor, Sydney Scales, Emily Knowles, but again, it's a win-win with these drafts. And I know we heard it from all of these captains here this week and last week, but with these defensive picks, Katie Detweiler is one of those players that you would rather have on your side than playing against. And I say that with the utmost respect because she is just one of those lockdown defenders. And for Sam to have her on her side, Sam won't have to worry about her as a matchup against somebody else this week.
And then that kind of brings me back to the matchup question. So if you match up with somebody in college, do you think it felt different than when you matched up with them in Athletes Unlimited? Does it feel more intense, or is it just kind of like reverting back to what you did maybe even a couple months ago?
Yeah, and we will see a lot of those similar matchups, and we'll also see matchups that we've never seen before, which makes it really exciting. But I think it makes it fun when we've seen it before, because as an offensive player and a defensive player, you have to go outside the box.
Taylor, whenever you're ready with your pick.
Defender, Kendall Halpern.
Ooh, Kendall Halpern, another defender. We've been picking a lot of defenders, and if you take a look at that board, you can see these teams starting to shape up. I'll ask the chat this one. Who is your favorite defender that you've seen taken so far in this draft? And because they're your favorite defender, are you going to be rooting for that team? So let us know, and we'll be scrolling through that as well. Kylie, I'll let you talk about Halpern a little bit.
Yeah, Halpern had a great Thursday night. We were able to talk to her after Thursday night's games, and she had 4 caused turnovers in one game in her pro debut. So just really stepping onto the scene and making a splash immediately. So for, Moreno to have her, Sydney Scales, and the midfielders that they have on the defensive end right now, as a goalkeeper, Taylor Moreno is trying to put a defense in front of her that she knows is going to give up the shots that she wants to see. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic couple picks by Taylor Moreno.
Britt Reed with her pick.
Midfielder, Meg Kinna.
Meg Kinna, that was somebody you were excited about heading into this entire season, Kylie. So you got to see her play in week 1. How excited are you to continue to see her play in weeks 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah, I think she did really, really well on a star-studded offense this past weekend. She's going to stay in the orange jersey, but I think it's been awesome to see her in her pro debut.
Marie, whenever you're ready.
Defender, Megan Ball.
So another defender, I'm looking in the chat. It looks like Abby Bosco is a big name that people are looking at as their favorite defender, and Marie's going to give us another pick.
Defender, Caroline Wakefield.
Caroline Wakefield, another defender. Kylie, I'll have you break down those 2 picks.
Yeah, 2 massive defensive picks there, and I really like those for Marie McCool. Megan Ball, in like the rookie look at it, she had a lot of really great steals this past weekend. She kind of makes plays in the moments that you really need somebody to make plays. That's what I noticed about her this past weekend and in her time at both Rutgers and then her 5th year at Maryland. And then Caroline Wakefield, she's a veteran defender. She's one of those players that is going to continue to talk shop with you even after the game ends about how we, maybe could have done this better, or how we could have put together a slide package a little bit differently on the defensive end. So I'm excited to see, Caroline and then, Marie, they played together at UNC. I'm excited to see them kind of match up on the defensive side here today, together.
I think that's one thing that Caroline talked about last year as well, because she mentioned that she battled some injuries throughout her college career, and then she eventually moved to that defensive side of the game. And she said she liked being able to see everything and almost act like a second coach because everything was out in front of her. So as you said, still wanting to talk shop, doing different things like that as well. I would love to see who we still have left on the board. Kylie, who stands out to you the most out of these names left?
I mean, we talked about it last week, and I feel like the last 2 rounds of the draft, I was like, wait, she's still there? Wait, she's still there? And I think it's just going to be the entire draft. It's not necessarily about what number you go at. It's more so about how the draft is going in terms of positions. And I think we're seeing that trend right now in that the second half of that defensive column over there is gone right now, because those last couple of picks in these last 2 rounds have all been defenders. So I'm wondering who's going to shift the trend back over to maybe some midfielders, maybe a few attackers sprinkled in, and then who's going to get the ball rolling on the goalies too.
No, for sure. And I'll ask the chat, who is everyone most surprised is still left on that board? And Britt Reed has her next pick.
Attack, Casey Choma.
Choma goes off the board. So there's an attacker. As you predicted, Kylie, you said maybe some less defenders. So what did you like from Casey in week 1?
Yeah, I think she is just one of those players that can kind of do a little bit of everything on the offensive end. So, when you think about an offensive player, you could have a really strong dodger. You could have a really strong feeder. You could have a really strong inside player who might be looking for cuts. And I think the big thing is that Casey Choma can do a little bit of all of those things.
Taylor has her next pick.
Defender, Kayla Wood.
Kayla Wood, so another defender off the board. Kylie, the chat is going crazy right now because everybody is waiting for Maddie Burns. I'll have you talk about Kayla Wood, and then we'll talk some Burns as well.
Yeah, I really love the way that Kayla Wood plays. I always have. She's one of those defenders that's really, really solid. Ever since year 1 in 2021 of AU, she is one of those players that she just sees the game so clearly and a couple plays ahead. So she's very, anticipatory in the way that she plays. And I think that's really, really big for the way that Taylor Moreno likes to have her defense set up in front of her. But yeah, I know that everyone is really excited for Maddie Burns, and she had a great showing in her first weekend of AU Pro Lacrosse. She's one of those defenders that can really run the ball up the field too. So I'm excited to see her in week 2.
Yeah, I'm going through my notes right now. She led everyone in week 1 with 9 ground balls. So as you said, she's pretty much everywhere and has a big fan base. So, we've asked everyone a couple of times, which team are they rooting for, depending on who gets picked. So I think whatever team Maddie Burns goes to will have a huge fan base. You'll have to find that Maddie Burns fan base when you're on the sidelines on Thursday.
Yeah, we had a couple of different fan bases this past weekend. We saw some Loyola fans. We saw a group of BC family and friends. We saw a group of Drexel Dragons who were in the stands watching both Coach Katie O'Donnell and Katrina Geiger on the same team. So it was cool to see the little groupings of people in the stands who maybe had some signs or really were just big fans of some of the players.
Sam has her pick.
Defender, Meg Dowdy.
Meg Dowdy. So we've talked a lot about the rookies. There's a veteran. We talked so much about her last week and everything that she brings. But as somebody who's played in the league for a few years now, and then Kylie, you yourself as a veteran to the league, what do you think Meg Dowdy brings that maybe some of the first-year players might not be able to add?
So much wisdom from Meg Dowdy. Every time I talk to her, I get some new piece of it or some new kind of inspiration about the way that she just views the game and the way that she just attacks the game. She always plays with so much gratitude, but she also plays with so much fire. And I think that is just a lethal combination when it comes to playing lacrosse. So yeah, she's one of those players that I've always looked up to, even though we don't play the same position. She's a fantastic leader. So I think that's going to be great on the defensive end for Team Apuzo.
I want to go back to what you were talking about of all the different little factions in the stands. Loyola Maryland is very close to Sparks Maryland. So do you think that's an unfair advantage that they have? They can bring more people, or do you think that there's people coming from everywhere and that's what makes it so special?
Yeah, I think we were seeing people coming from everywhere. I think it is, a little bit of an unfair advantage, but, I think it was also, there were so many former Loyola players on Team Glenn this past week. And Katie Glenn is known to draft players that she's played with before and kind of keep everything really tight knit. So I think they really mostly came out because they could only root for one team again. And it just made a lot of sense. They didn't have to root against each other.
I love that. And it worked for Katie Glenn in the net. She had 37 saves last week. So definitely the Loyola support helped, and having her former teammates all together. And it goes back to that chemistry aspect that we've talked so much about. So when you got to play with some of your former college teammates, I mean, you talked about some of your Seawolves already today. Did you get a little bit more excited for that week, or how did that feel?
Yeah, I remember in season 1, I actually I was lucky enough to be able to be a captain 3 of the 5 weeks, and I got to draft Allie Kennedy first overall, and that was the best feeling ever.
Sam has her pick.
Midfielder, Lindsay McCone.
Lindsay McCone. Kylie, another midfielder. What do you like about Lindsay?
Lindsay is a player that, and actually speaking to Marie earlier today, is one of those players that's just one of those calming voices on the sideline, in the huddle. And then she also just makes a lot of really great decisions on the field. She's a midfielder that can kind of do a little bit of everything, as all the midfielders can in this league. But I like her decision-making on the offensive end. We saw her with she was part of that highlight reel goal from Erin Kuykendall this past weekend, where she passed it into her. She was coming around the crease. But yeah, she's just got such a great feeding ability. And I know that everybody likes playing with her because of her calming presence.
Taylor has her pick.
Attacker, Livy Rosenzweig.
Livy Rosenzweig. That was one that I was surprised that got picked later in the draft. She led in draw control. She's the queen of the draw controls. We talked about it last week. But what else does she bring to the field, Kylie?
Yeah, she's one of the on the offensive side. She really brings a lot of different opportunities down low on the right side as well. She likes to dodge. She has a really good inside roll dodge, a little bit of a rocker, and she's got a great stick. So I'm excited to see how she fits in with Taylor Moreno's team this week, especially, taking the draw a little bit and being able to contribute on the offensive end.
So we're getting down. Oh, well, Britt Reed's ready with her pick.
Defender, Kristen Carr.
Kristen Cookie Carr. We talked about Meg Dowdy and having so much wisdom. She's somebody, Kylie, that you said also brings so much wisdom and leadership. She's a coach as well. Cookie Carr is. So can you talk a little bit about her and her ability to just lead, especially some of the younger players on a team?
Yeah, Cookie Carr, again, just brings so much inspiration to the game. The way she plays so hard every time out. And she's also just got that voice in the huddle that everybody is just, locked into, whatever she has to say. So yeah, she's the head coach at Towson. And speaking of, another program that has fans really close nearby, I'm sure we'll be seeing some Towson Tigers in the stand at some point this season for Coach Cookie Carr.
I think that's one of the coolest things is when you do see everybody in like their designated shirts, they're wearing their team gear. Everybody in the chat, who are some of your favorite teams in college? Which gear have you been wearing at Athletes Unlimited games? And if you haven't yet, maybe come out and see a game and wear some of that gear. I would like to see too who we have left on the board. The draft is getting down to some of those final picks. Kylie, what stands out here?
I'm just interested to see who is going to pick a goalie first. And Britt Reed, Taylor Moreno, they're probably going to wait for one of their last couple of rounds just because they are goalies themselves. But I think, Marie and Sam, that could be, it could be an interesting mix in who gets to pick the goalie that they want first. So I'm excited to see when they throw these in, but I think they're coming soon.
Marie, whenever you're ready.
Midfielder Sierra Cockerell.
So Cockerell gets taken, not a goalie yet. What did you like from Sierra in week 1?
Sierra played with no fear this past weekend. And I liked that about her. She just, every time she had the ball, she went hard to the cage. She made great plays. And there were a couple of plays that I just really was impressed by the way that she was just very solid in terms of her mindset around how she could help her team out. You could just tell by the way she was playing. It was, wherever you're going to put me, I'm going to go and I'm going to play really, really hard. So I'm excited to see her with Marie McCool this week.
I like how you mentioned about, the goalies waiting. They can wait to pick another goalie, right? How long, as somebody who wasn't a goalie, did you wait to pick somebody for your netminder? But we'll answer that question after Marie makes her next pick.
Goalie Kaylee Waters.
There it is.
There we go. The captains can't hear us, but it seemed as though they did hear us in our conversation right before that.
Me and Marie have telepathy sometimes.
That's exactly what it was.
Totally deny that. But yeah, to answer your question, a really nice pick there in Kaylee Waters. She really stood on her head for Team Apuzo this past weekend. She was making kick saves and diving saves and split saves and all the things that make Kaylee Waters so incredibly talented. She can be a game changer. And I think that's a big one there for Marie to steal off the board. But I think it always just kind of, going back to your question, it always just kind of depends on how the draft goes. It's a funny thing because you kind of all day long on Monday, you're thinking, I would love to get this player. I would love to get this player. I'd love to have this player in the goal, but it just never works out that way exactly perfectly as you would assume. I think it's just always just kind of following the ebbs and flows of how the draft goes and not necessarily, I think another big thing too, as you're watching the draft, not necessarily as a captain, but just as a player waiting for your name to be called, it's not necessarily worrying about what number you're getting drafted at. Again, I keep reiterating that because it really is just such a positions game.
Britt Reed has her next pick.
Midfielder Lauren Gilbert.
Ooh, Lauren Gilbert. We talked about her speed. What did she show in week 1?
She definitely showcased her speed. And I think she was on that, Team Apuzo that had all of those, we looked at the lineup from Team Apuzo's roster last week, and it was, kind of Team BC, we called it, Sam Apuzo, Charlotte North, Kenzie Kent, Dempsey Arsenal. So in 4 of those are taking up 4 out of 6 offensive spots. So it's really difficult for players like Lauren Gilbert, Cassidy Spillis, Megan Kinna to really make the splash that they're used to, maybe on their college teams or in previous years. So I'm excited to see, Lauren Gilbert's going to stick around with the orange jersey, but she's got a different squad around her. So maybe she can make a little bit more of the splash that she's used to. And we all know that she's very capable of this week.
Taylor has her next pick.
Defender Maddie Burns.
There is Maddie Burns. So the chat can be excited and happy right now. I want to hear everyone's first reactions. What you're thinking now Maddie Burns got selected. Kylie, what are you thinking now that Maddie Burns got selected?
I'm just excited to see the chat. I don't have it pulled up, but I'm going off of your word that it's going to be really exciting. But yeah, Maddie Burns is one of those players that, again, stood out as a rookie this past weekend. And I think it's a really good sign when you have offensive players that might not want to be matched up against you already. It means you're making your mark as a defender in the league. And I think Maddie Burns showcased that this past weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm reading some responses. We got a let's go with a lot of capitals and exclamation points. There's some hearts, some cheering, woo Maddie, exclamation point. So I know you're not following along in the chat, Kylie, but we got a play-by-play here for you. Somebody says, yes, let's go. So everybody's very excited. How does Maddie Burns fit in on Team Marino? We can answer that after Sam makes her pick.
Goalie, Katie Glenn.
There's that goalie pick again with Katie Glenn. As we said before, 37 saves in week 1. So she's doing a really good job in the net. How does she fit? I'll ask you this first. How does she fit onto Team Apuzo? And then we can go back to Maddie Burns on Team Marino.
Yeah, I think, again, like Marie McCool taking her first choice goalie without Britt Reed and Taylor Moreno obviously on the board, and Kaylee Waters, and then Sam Puzo doing the same. Both of them had fantastic weekends. So to be able to get them off the board and onto their teams, I think Katie Glynn is really solid in terms of being able to lead the defense, and also just understanding that when she gets hot, she stays hot. And she was seeing the ball really well this past weekend.
Sam has her next pick.
Defender, Katrina Geiger.
Katrina Geiger. So the Drexel fans were excited for Katrina Geiger. What did she show them last week?
Yeah, Katrina's another one of those veteran players, and again is another one of those defenders that as an attacker, like, you just don't want to be matched up against. I could probably say that about everyone in this league, but she's so smart in the way that she approaches the game. And, you know, a lot of these players are collegiate coaches themselves, but in Katrina, you see that because of the way you could see her thinking the game as she's thinking about where she might be, you know, forcing her offensive player to a specific angle, or the way she approaches to make sure that maybe the offensive player that she's marking doesn't get as much space as they would like when they catch the ball and go to dodge. Different things like that. She's really smart when she plays.
Taylor, whenever you're ready.
Attacker, Kaylin Hart.
Ooh, Kaylin Hart. So an attacker. So we're talking about defenders, attackers.
Did it. She's got Team Seawolf.
How excited are you now for another Seawolf on the board?
I had to cut you off because I was so excited.
No, cut me off. Please do it.
Oh my gosh. We talked about it before, and honestly, it's a steal when you get Kaylin Hart like that. And, you know, you're going to have Hart, Massera, and Kennedy all on the offensive end at some point throughout this weekend, you know, depending on subbing and whatnot. But I mean, that's chemistry in itself. All of those players played together. It might have been for 1 year, but those were players that, you know, understand systems that operated, you know, under the same coach, under the same mentality for years and years. And it's been cool to see that play out in different teams and how different teams kind of put their game plans out there each week here in AU Pro Lacrosse. And I'm excited to see that little Seawolf flavor this week for Team Marino.
I can tell. I'm excited to watch how you cover them as well. I think it'll be super cool to have you looking in on it from a different lens. But, you know, I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times because I feel like a lot of people talk about this with Athletes Unlimited. But, you know, you have the Seawolf connection, or you're getting back together with your old teammates. How do you adjust when you are reconnecting with people that you maybe never played with before and you have to do it so quickly week by week?
Yeah, and you said it perfectly. It's quick. You know, after this draft, they will have practice tomorrow. They'll have practice on Wednesday. And then, you know, maybe some players like to shoot around. Some teams like to get maybe even just like a quick team breakfast on game day on Thursday. But it's really just Tuesday and Wednesday before your first game where you have like full practices. So it is quick and it's a big adjustment.
Britt, whenever you're ready.
Attacker, Sammy Joe.
Sammy Jo Tracy, selected by Britt Reed. So more and more picks coming off the board. How does Sammy Jo Tracy fit into Team Reed?
I like this pick for Team Reed because you add Sammy Jo as not only an attack option, but you also add her as a draw option. And we saw her really successful when Team Bosco this past weekend needed a little bit of a switch up at the draw. They were able to put Sammy Jo in there. And sometimes she is so effective on the offensive end that you forget that that's one of the main things she's so good at. And then when she goes and does it, it's like, oh my gosh, she's also got that up her sleeve. So I think that is kind of that little trickery in the position of the draw taker, as well as being an offensive threat, that makes Sammy Jo such a dual threat out there.
I feel like she's also somebody that might fit into that vibes category. I think that you've played with her and have had experiences like playing against her as well. So how does she help a team in terms of vibes? I know she has a lot of big energy. She does everything with fashion. She's involved in so many different things. So what does she bring to a team in that aspect?
All of it, all of the above and more. She really does. And she's just got a fantastic personality.
Marie, whenever you're ready.
Attacker, Erica Evans.
Erica Evans, selected by Marie McCool. Kylie, first thoughts.
First thoughts, we saw her play a lot of the two-man game, kind of working little picks on the left side while the rest of the offense was, kind of keeping their defenders occupied on offense. She was doing that with Maggie Hall on the left side this past weekend. And what I noticed about this is that Erica Evans is really, really good at that, but she's also really great at creating a lot of offense from that left side for offenses. So her and Kenzie Kent working together the same way that I saw her and Maggie Hall working together on the left side, I think should be fun.
Absolutely. So we're getting down to the final picks. Who do we have left on the board? Let's take a quick look. So we have the goalies are left as we usually predict with the way that these drafts go. We have 2 defenders, 1 attacker, and 1 midfielder. Kylie, if you had the next pick in this draft, who do you think you would take?
Ooh.
I know I put you on the spot there.
No, that's okay. And that's why when we're chatting about all these little things, we see, these stressed faces and these talks that these captains are having with their facilitator. Taylor looks so stressed right now.
She does. She's has her hand like this.
But it is a stressful thing. You got to think about all the options.
Marie has her pick selected.
Goalkeeper Madison Doucette.
So there's another goalkeeper off the board. First year Madison Doucette. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm excited to hopefully see Doucette in the cage at some point this weekend. I think she provides a lot of spark and a lot of energy, not only on the sidelines like I saw this past weekend, but she has a fantastic story in that she played for Northwestern for 4 years. She took a year off of lacrosse and school and all of that good stuff, and then came back to college lacrosse to finish out at Hopkins. So I'm excited to see her on Team McCool.
Absolutely amazing. Britt Reed has our next pick.
Goalie Emily Sterling.
So now the goalies are getting taken off the board. Sterling goes to Team Reed.
Trying to figure out what all these smirks are.
I know. Maybe they can hear us and we just don't know.
I think I have FOMO, really big time. And I'm just I want to know what the inside joke is.
We're going to talk about the FOMO. Taylor has her next pick.
Goalie Kat Buchanan.
Kat Buchanan, who I hear is a great golfer as well as a great goalkeeper. But yeah, Kylie, talk about the FOMO a little bit. What do you think that they're saying? What are the smirks about? I need your analysis on this now.
I'm honestly not sure. I can't tell if it's because they all keep getting nervous to say names that they keep messing up people's names and they're making fun of each other in the same room, or I'm not sure, but it's super fun to see.
Sam has her next pick.
Goalie Polina DeFata.
Polina DeFata selected, so another goalie. Yeah, it's tough with the names, right? There's so many names and you want to make sure that you're getting them all right. I know I even stumbled over Britt Reed's name today and it's 2 syllables. Sam, whenever you're ready.
Attacker Madison Hearn.
Madison Hearn selected. So these last couple picks moving a little bit quicker as we're filling out the board. Taylor, whenever you're ready.
Midfielder Haley Warden.
We're talking about quickness, and Taylor popped right into the screen
today, and I love the preciseness. But yeah, both great picks. Again, Haley Warden, Madison Hearn, both players that are going to be kind of just sleeper picks. We said it last week, but these last 2 rows, everybody that's been left, it's they're going to be a player that you can put in at the position that you need them to be in and make a difference on the field. And I love that about AU Pro Lacrosse.
Absolutely. Another quick pick from Britt Reed.
Defender Trinity McPherson.
So McPherson goes to Team Reed. Defender off the board as we get down to these last couple of picks. Marie, whenever you're ready.
Defender Marge Donovan.
So Marge Donovan goes to Team McCool. Kylie, thoughts on Marge?
Trinity and Marge, both of them, those are defenders that are all worlds. They were, at the top of everything when they played in college. And, Marge Donovan is one of those players that can also be a lockdown defender. So again, I think these teams are shaping out to be really exciting, really interesting, and I'm excited for week 2.
Speaking of week 2, that's going to conclude our draft. So everybody has made their picks. And so if you want to catch the games this week, they start on Thursday, July 25th, 5 p.m. Team Marino takes on Team Reed. That is going to be on ESPNU. Right after that, at 7:30 p.m., Team McCool and Team Apuzo will be on Bali Sports. Make sure that you tune into those games. Kylie will be on the sidelines. It's going to be very exciting, especially after we just watched this full draft. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight.